Yeah, they would probably more good since yeah, oh, I won't bet that. This sounds more fun.
Everybody hear me? Good. My name is Jane Horn from the University of Arizona. And about a year ago, I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about a classroom performance system, what we call clickers. And I called Moadine Abdulaziz, who's the director of IT at the University of Arizona. I said, Mo, can we do this? And Mo made it happen. So this afternoon, we're going to give you a little talk and demonstration about this, the clicker system. First, I'll go talking about this from a faculty perspective, and then Mo's going to tell you about this from a technical perspective. So, welcome. The classroom performance system is a classroom response system, also known as a classroom performance system, also known as a student response system. And it's an interactive class as opposed to the traditional lecture delivery. In other words, it's two ways instead of one. The components consist of the computer and projector, the CPS software, receivers, this is the receiver, and the actual clickers. And we're going to hand out clickers so we can do an actual live demonstration for how this works. And you can see how this would feel in your classroom. And how students
we have 52 of these.
So if we don't have, I'm not sure how. We may have to share. I'm not sure how many people are in here. So. Well, while we're handing those out, I think we would all in our classroom, every law faculty I know, would rather have students that look like this as opposed to this. And the current theory is that if you can get your class interactive, you can have them with their hands in the air, or at least their fingers on the button of the clickers ready to participate, as opposed to sort of sitting back there passive or worse, sleeping in your classroom. Something no faculty member wants to do. What we're going to talk about this morning is how we use the clickers, for what they can do technically and as a way of record keeping, what students think about the clickers, and what we, both faculty and technical folks, think about the clickers. We have enough of those, Mo? We're going to need to share. There's a lot of multiple choice questions here, so everybody should get a chance to do it. Okay? Well, how many people here are faculty? Are there anybody faculty? Okay. So the questions are sort of directed at you, so how many of you, if you teach, or if you don't teach, how many of you think that the faculty members you work with use questions to ascertain if students have understood factual material? In other words, did they read the statute? So, how do I get down here without the mouse? Without the mouse, how do I get down? Now, so pick one, A or B. Yes, you use yes, you use questions to ascertain factual material, or B, you do not. And if it lights up, you can tell. You probably need to point it at the receiver.
Can you repeat your question again?
Yeah, the question is, do you use questions to ascertain factual information? In other words, do you or any faculty members you might know ever use questions to see if, for example, students have read a statute? And A is yes, B is no.
If you click other than A or B, it will
won't.
go red. That means it's not.
Now, if you just tried to take Mo at his word, and you had clicked in before, that will negate your prior answer. So,
It's the last click that counts.
that's right. So students can change their answers after they do it if they think about it. So you want to click A for yes or B for no. Okay, everybody clicked in? And when I end this, it's going to tell me how many of you clicked A for yes and B for no. So this means that of the 30 people who responded to this question, 29 of you used factual questions. Now, an example is not moving. Oh, okay. So, here we have, did students understand, have the factual information ready? I teach employment law, and this would be a question the kind of a question that I would ask. So, read the question. And the question is, you can get leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act for which of the above? So pick out your answer. It's either A, the birth or adoption of a child, B, the care of an immediate family member with a serious health condition, C, your own serious health condition, or D, all of the above. Okay, so now you need to click on one of those. A is the birth or adoption of a child. B B is the care of an immediate family member, C is your own serious health condition, and D is all of the above. Again, if you see the light go on,
Do you have to change to this screen when the students are?
no. Actually, usually it's a side-by-side screen, and I'm not sure why. Usually the screen's side-by-side, so you can see the answers and the questions.
I just got this system as a demo from eInstruction, so they sent it, delivered it to here. It just took 5 minutes to set it up to it. We didn't do any customization or anything else.
But generally, when I do this in class, you can see both this and the question and answers. Okay? You get to see it all.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
What kind of lighting do you have in the room you use it in?
Dimmer, well, about like this, but the classroom that I used this in last semester is markedly more spread out than this. And lighting was an issue, and so we dimmed the lights right down the middle of the room.
Oh, it's, historically, these don't work as well with fluorescent.
Right. It seems to be working just fine here. And so here we see that 28 of you said, well, all of the above. And that's right. And this would let me know before I began launching into some of the finer points of the family and medical leave act that my students had actually read the material. Yeah.
Can you omit that screen altogether, though, the response screen, or does it always have to be present when the responses are being received?
As far as I know, it always has to be present, but it's way off to the side. So they can see, and the good thing about it is they can see if they actually clicked in.
And how successful is the reception? I notice I have to really point it right at you.
You do have to point in a larger classroom. We actually have 2 receivers, and Mo will talk about that a little bit later. You had to play with those a little bit. Okay? Yeah, want to go for it. Okay. You some.
They're actually in PowerPoint right now, or are you something different?
This is in PowerPoint. There are 2 ways to do this. You can do it on eInstruction sort of own CPS questions. I personally found those very cumbersome to use. So I found it was easier to switch back and forth between the 2 using verbal questions. Because that way I can set them up the way I want them. Otherwise you have to fit them into their preordained format. I personally found that difficult to use.
Can you save the answers when doing it with PowerPoint?
Oh yeah, the answers are saved. Okay. So if I wanted to use this for a quiz, for example, and then I wanted to go see, who got it right, I absolutely can go do that later. Okay. So, click in. You sometimes ask questions to see if students actually understand the holding of a case. A is yes, and B is no. Okay, everybody clicked in? Now you can time this. Oh, we got wise guys here. Almost as much wise guys as my students. You can also time this if you want. And again, we see and how quickly this comes up to let both me and my students know, whether they got something right. Let's go on to the next one, which gives an example of, I'm trying to figure out, we've just discussed a case, and let's say we spent quite a bit of time on it. And now I want to see, did my students get the holding of a case? And so I'll give a multiple choice question like this. They'll click on an answer, and almost instantaneously, I'll find out, did they get what I've been saying, or did they get what I said in class yesterday? So I can come in and do a sort of, how much did they retain? What did they get out of the discussion yesterday? Okay, do I need to spend more time on this topic, or can we move on? And I don't think we need to test them, because it's not like you read the case. So. Another way I'll use it is to use a hypothetical to see, why don't we get the hypothetical up? Can they apply what they have just learned? So I've spent a class period, for example, talking about, some particular topic. And this was arbitration in employment. That's the area that I mostly teach in. And so I could see, did they really understand, be able to put all the material from last class together, define some sort of principle at it, and then be able to apply it here. Again, giving me very useful information. But it doesn't just give useful information to me, it gives really useful information to the students. Did they get what they were supposed to get from class yesterday or from class 5 minutes ago? Go ahead and move on. All right. Clickers can also be used to ascertain student opinion. And so one of the questions we're talking about, I'm introducing the topic of drug testing in employment, and I want to find out what they think. Now, we all know how truly wonderful law students feel about raising their hands and saying, this is my opinion, especially when we're talking spring semester 3Ls. They're sitting there on their hands. But this is a way of getting everyone to participate in class without having to raise their hand. So now I'm going to find out what you think is the most invasive way of blood testing. Is it urine testing, blood testing, or hair testing? So why don't we go to verbal? A through C. A is urine, B is blood, and C is hair. A is urine, B is blood, C is hair. Now, we can also time this. You see where it says 1 minute? If I wanted to make sure that students were doing this within a certain period of time, I could set that timer plus or minus to as short or as long as I want. If I wanted to give them 10 seconds to answer the question, I could do it would automatically end. Yeah.
Does the system tell you which people have not voted? In other words, are they assigned a number permanently? You can track what they're doing?
You could, yes. They are all assigned a number permanently.
Keep track of their score, see who's doing well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You could. I chose not to, but one of my other colleagues who used this last spring absolutely used this to test class participation. Not only the level, but also who was getting the questions right. Okay, so let's see what people thought. Well, we had a variety of opinions. 2 of you thought that urine testing was the most invasive. 24 thought it was blood, and 6 thought it was hair. And then that gives me a way to talk about this and to explain that, for example, well, why might somebody think that blood testing is more invasive or more intrusive than urine testing? Well, because you have to stick somebody. Okay, so that makes sense, and we can talk about that. And then, well, why don't people think hair testing is very invasive? Well, because most people think the hair is coming from your head. It can come from other parts of your body. It's something I'll explain to students. It also gives me a way to talk about, for example, well, what if your hair is, not my length and not Mo's length, but is down to here? And they take the last inch of your hair. How long ago were the substances that you imbibed are now in that bottom part of your hair? And so it may be more invasive because it's going to go back way further than a blood test or a urine test. And so it gives me a good way to bring up things like this and to get them to think about it without my just standing up here and just launching into it. It's also helpful for me because I can ask students questions about very controversial topics. Let's say we're beginning to talk about affirmative action. Another hot button item for some of my colleagues who teach family law might be gay marriage. Now, I don't want to say in class, okay, how many of you think affirmative action is good and how many of you think affirmative action is bad? Because I'm not going to get a very good response to a question like that. Because there are going to be students who are going to be thinking one way or the other on that question, but unwilling to raise their hands and admit either pro or con. And the politics of the situation seem to change year to year, and the range of political opinion can change year to year in the class. So this way, they can give me their point of view. So let's see what people here say. We've just read an opinion on the United States Supreme Court, and I can say, do you agree? Sorry, do you agree with this, or don't you agree with this? So, click A or B. Let us say that the court thinks affirmative action is a great idea. You agree with that? That's A. The court thinks affirmative action is a great idea. B, you don't agree. In other words, you don't like affirmative action. That's B. Okay? Okay? So, you see, we have not an even split, but a difference of opinion. And so now, 10 people in here who might have, prior to this, been afraid to say, you know, I really don't agree with affirmative action. Now know there's 9 other people in the room that agree with them. They do not feel nearly as alone. Yeah?
I didn't see how you selected or described which question was going with, or which set of answers was going with which question, just in the order that you're on the screen. So it's all, the questions then have to be, all have to be prepared in advance.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, no, you could do them absolutely verbally and then just write the answers on the chalkboard. You know, write the questions on the chalkboard. A is this and B is that.
Or tell them. Which one?
Or tell them, absolutely.
But you then have to record yourself the questions.
That's right. You have to make a note of it so you know, did they get it right or did they get it wrong? And that's if you're counting the questions. If all you really want is for them to participate, it doesn't matter who does what. Then this gives me a way to say to my class, okay, there are X many people who think affirmative action is not a good idea. What arguments could you make in support of that position? And that totally depersonalized. So now they can say, well, it doesn't matter how I feel about affirmative action. All I'm arguing is why somebody else might feel that way. And it really makes it much easier to have a discussion about a very controversial subject like affirmative action, as opposed to people giving their personal opinions about affirmative action.
I noticed that you were choosing the number of the responses, A to B, A to D, whatever. Can
Right.
you program that ahead so you don't have to make that selection? Or no?
You could, but then you have to use their questions. You have to use their format. If you're using verbal questions because you're not using their format, you're just using PowerPoint, then you have to check. You have to pick one. And you can do A and B, true and false. They have lots of iterations for them. Okay, go ahead. Now, the classroom performance system is more than PowerPoint with questions. It can take and record attendance. And all you do is click on class. You can close this. You click on class. It can do 2 things. It can pick a student with absolute randomness. So this students would have registered. You could click on that and some name would appear on the screen. I never used that, but one of my colleagues did. You could also have it take attendance. And I did that every single day. It was not a popular feature, but oh well. Now I'll tell you, I never told my students. I never went to check. But they never knew that. This was a 2 and 3L class. Yeah, do you have a question?
Do students keep these throughout the semester? How does that work?
You have a choice. Some people use it where the law school buys them and then brings them to every class, hands them out, picks them up. That was much more expensive. We bought this for about $1,200 out of my faculty allotment. We did what's called the bookstore model. The clicker itself sells for $5 approximately at the bookstore. The other cost to the student is they then have to register online. Per semester it is $15. So it's a $20 outlay. They can keep the clicker if they want forever. That $15 is $15 whether one of your faculty uses the system or all of your faculty use the system. One registration fee, but it's per semester. We did it that way basically for financial reasons. We did not want to invest about $6,000 in buying all this and then find, nobody really likes using it. Also, I personally did not want to be responsible for clickers. Giving them out, collecting them. This way, it's totally the student's responsibility.
What about numbers? Do they all have different numbers?
They all have different numbers. And I have a list of that.
How does the chart numbered?
There's a way, before you do it, it knows they have to sign up and they register for the class.
For each class?
For each class.
Translates their numbers into 1, 2, 3.
That's correct. Yeah.
How do you deal with the dog ate it and they don't have it?
They don't have it. You get a couple of extras, and I would just keep them on the podium. You forgot it. Here it is. You forgot it. You can't click in for attendance. Oh, isn't that a shame? How am I going to know you're not here? Well, now you've got to send me an email and say, I was there, but the dog ate my clicker. Then you're going to have to go buy another clicker. They will not charge you for another registration if you've already registered. Yeah.
What about the student that gives his clicker to somebody else to come and sit in for him?
Right. Well, I suppose that can happen, but how big are your classes, And I suppose some student could pay off some other student to come to class and click in for them for a semester, but I don't think the chances of that are too high. Maybe they'll do it once, but after about 2 weeks into the semester, this had 60 people in the class. I pretty much knew who was supposed to be there. I've got a seating chart.
The honor code kicks in.
That's also true, because that would be cheating. The honor code kicks in, and that would be cheating. So, yeah.
Where does the attendance get recorded once? I understand you clicked in a chart you created.
I create, before the semester starts, I create a class. And I tell it to start taking attendance on next day and stop taking it on next day. And somehow magically it does that.
So it's magic.
Yeah. Well, Mo can tell you it's not really magic.
You don't have to monitor it.
I do not monitor it. Now I can go in then and it will give me... Student 6, you're on now. It will tell me, it will give me a whole, looks like a grade book. And it tells me every single day, P, present, or A for absent. I looked at it a couple of times, but I wasn't going to do anything with it. The thread of it was clearly enough. Yeah.
You ever use it to determine who you'll call on?
I personally didn't, but I got really good class participation in the next semester, I'm going to have 100 first-year babies in civil procedure, and I think we may be more inclined to use it. Yeah.
What happens when you ask a question and there's 60 people and 10 of them come up with the answer you want, and then you realize that you didn't get your point across the way you thought you did? Do you then go into a whole discussion? I mean, does it inhibit people to? Like, it seems like it's really great for almost like surveying, preliminary reviewing, but then once you get to, what happens when you hit the brick wall and people aren't getting the concept?
Then, well, that depends, If it's something that they're not getting the concept because they think, well, they didn't read the statute they were supposed to read, then I'm going to say, you guys got to read the statute. I'm not explaining it again. If you read it, you'll get it. But if it's something that I see that a good percentage of them are not getting, then I'm going to stop and I'm going to say, okay, we need to go over this. It's good feedback for them and it's good feedback for me.
It seems to be one of the main benefits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can see in civil procedure when I hit supplemental jurisdiction, just sort of like the algebra of the first year class, and there's going to be people who are just dropping by the wayside at that point. It's absolutely crucial. I can slow it down or I can speed it up, and I guarantee I'll be slowing it down. Yeah.
Do you upload your lessons after they're complete so that students can log onto the site?
I upload, they don't see the answers to the questions, but I give them the entire PowerPoint, not the CPS part of it, but I do give them the PowerPoint. In other words, I think PowerPoint is for asking the right question. I don't feel that they should be getting all the answers spoon-fed to them. I want them to come to class, take notes, incorporate everything together. So, yes, they get the PowerPoint is uploaded after every class.
Also, have you had any experience with the RF version of this, with the higher education?
No, is that a radio frequency?
Right.
I looked around for radio frequency, and I understand that it works somewhat better. but we just couldn't afford it. You know, I had $1,200 left in my faculty allotment, and I was willing to blow it on an experiment.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to ask the school. The cheapest I could find radio frequency was, I don't know, about $15,000, $20,000.
I'm with Mercer, and we're implementing this fall, the radio frequency version of it. And it still seems like the software has a lot of bugs in it, and it's just a lot of things, like not recording some of the data. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know if you had any problems.
We did not have any problems with it. Students, and one of my colleagues used this to give quizzes, and students were very worried that it wasn't recording it properly. But as far as I know, it did. A little bit. Let's skip the next couple. Let's go to you probably use. Oh, let's go back. Sorry. You can use this as a reading test. In other words, did they read this and can they figure out, this is from one of my colleagues who teaches criminal procedure, did they read this, did they get it right? Not only do you get class participation on it, you can score that right or wrong. So you can, use this and you can count class participation. Either did they answer it or did they answer it and get it right? Let's go to the next question, which is an example of just, you can count class participation here because all you're really trying to do is get students to say something. You don't really care because this is an opinion question. And so you can use it to spur discussion, and you can give them credit merely for answering. Doesn't matter if they clicked A or B. To you, they responded, that's all you're looking for. Or you can use it as in the prior question, did they get it right? Well, let me show you what students thought about the clickers. This is an open question. So I did a little poll in my employment law class. I take no claim for scientific validity. This was, I wanted to know, after a semester of using this, what they thought about it. So, this was the first question I asked. I like the clickers. I don't like the clickers. All they had to tell me was yes or no. And they overwhelmingly liked the clickers. 89% of them liked the clickers. And I thought that was amazing. It was their $20, and this was a class that met Monday and Wednesday morning from 8:30 to 9:45. So they had to be there early in the morning, bright-eyed and ready to go. And they liked it. Now, maybe they liked it because it was 8:30 in the morning, and it was something to keep them awake. But they overwhelmingly did. Now I tried to figure out, why did they like it? Was it because they were interactive, they were fun, they kept them awake, they helped me participate? And then for those who don't want to answer this because they're the 11% who hate the clickers, they could tell me that yet again. Okay. And this is what they said. So the vast majority liked the interactive nature of it. They liked, that there was some way that they weren't just sitting there passively.
2% changed their mind.
2% changed their minds, right. 2% now, less, more like the clickers. 8% thought they were fun. 11% said they keep me awake. 17% said they help me participate. And 9% now, down to, don't like the clickers. They thought about it, I suppose. Then I asked them, again, another way of looking at what exactly it is they like about the clickers. They like the review, they test their knowledge, they can give their opinions anonymously. I like that I can see whether people agree with me. And the ever popular, I don't like the clickers. As you can see, it's steadily going down. And so maybe it's that they're saying, well, gee, I can actually give her information, so I guess I like the clickers a little better than I thought of. I told you I was not making any claims of scientific validity.
Or maybe they didn't like it, they didn't want to click it.
Hard to tell. So, 13% of them liked the review. because I would give a sort of multiple choice question at the beginning of each class, testing whether they got what they were supposed to get the day before. Oh, what happened to the answer? The screen before. There we go. 47% of them like that they can test their knowledge. And by that, they liked the feedback. Did they get it or didn't they get it? That to me was really crucial because students seem to always be complaining, I never get any feedback before the final exam. And this was one way to really give them feedback before the final exam. That meant I didn't have to grade papers, I didn't have to grade midterms. I could give them needed and wanted feedback without putting in a lot of additional workload on me. 13% of them like that they can give their opinion anonymously. 15% can see like that they can see that other people agree with me, and the same 6% are still really pissed off about it. Now I wanted to see what do people dislike about the clickers. They could dislike everything. They could dislike that sometimes the clickers don't work so well. As Mo explained in a couple of minutes, it took them a while to figure out where's the best place to put the receivers, and some other issues. Sometimes they have, if you're finding you have to kind of move around. I thought at 8:30 in the morning that was one of the things that kept them awake, but they might not have liked that. And the middle row of the class was darkened because the receivers, these things, were in the middle of the room. I minded that, but you'll see what they minded. Okay. 4% disliked everything about the clickers.
It's going down.
It's going down, 43% disliked that sometimes the receivers didn't work well. And sometimes their batteries die, and that makes them not work at all. 13% dislike having to do the sort of this to get the line of sight of the receiver. Only 2% dislike that the row was in the middle of the dark. I just like that because that's where I stood. But I'm not talking pitch black. I mean, it was just darker than the rest of the room. And 36% didn't mind anything about it, which I thought was also good. All right, let's try the next one. There's only a couple more. There's only 2 more questions. I wanted to know, did they think I should use them again next year? Would they recommend this for another class? And the response was 92% of them thought I should use it again next year. And I thought that was overwhelmingly common. Yeah.
How often did you use it?
Every day.
How often every day? Because you said you had the review question at the beginning.
Probably a minimum of twice. Probably more on average 3 or 4 times. And sometimes more. If I'm covering statutory material and I'm trying to test a lot of sort of easy kinds of knowledge situations, less than if I'm doing something pretty esoteric that requires a lot of policy analysis and is just harder, then it's going to cut the use rate. Not to nothing, but now, if I had used the model where we bought the clickers, not the students, so they had no economic outlay, I might not have used it every day. But if they were paying $20 for this, experiment, I felt like I needed to use it every day.
So the 1,200 you paid was for the basic software.
The software, the receivers, right? Software, 2 receivers, and 2 of these receivers and the software. Yeah.
Do you and the other faculty that use this, do you run it yourself in the class, or do you have someone there to run it for you?
They load it up for me, I run it myself. The only reason I'm not running this is because I'm sort of incompetent without a mouse. Yeah.
How much time do you think it took you to modify your classes to integrate this?
Very little, because I was using a PowerPoint before. And so I was pretty good with the PowerPoint. So, per class, I had to come up with some questions. Less than an hour a class. Yeah.
You may have said this and I missed it, but how many clickers per receiver?
I think they say 90.
You can, according to their specs, you can go up to 256 per receiver. But ideally, around 60 were planned.
In my class of 60, we had 2 receivers.
And it depends also on the layout of the room, of the classroom, where they are positioned and everything.
Right. This room we count seats 103, and everyone's been able to click at the one receiver very easily. In our classrooms that size, which are laid out not nearly as nicely as this room, so they're much more spread out, it'd be very hard to do. You couldn't do it with one receiver.
Because of distance?
Yes, because of distance and line of sight.
Did you say you use fluorescent lights in your class?
Yes, I think they are.
Yes.
And that's why you turn them off?
In the middle, yeah.
How much each one of the receivers cost again?
The whole thing for 2 receivers and the software was $1,200.
The price is cheaper now.
Is it?
It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
We
Good
paid
daylight?
$350 for software and one receiver.
$350?
Yeah.
With daylight coming in the window?
We don't have any windows.
Oh. No distractions?
Yeah.
Here with daylight didn't make much difference.
Okay.
Okay, we have one more. I asked them, oops, let me see one. Oh, question 6 isn't on there. All right. I asked them whether they wanted other faculty to start using clickers. And most of them did. So this is just sort of a summary. What I liked about the clickers was I think it increased class participation. It was interactive. It forced people to participate, which I thought was a good thing. They liked it. It kept them engaged. It was good feedback for me and for my students. It was a good way to open class discussion. The only thing I disliked about the clickers was the technology isn't perfect. I personally didn't like the darkened room, but as you can see, bothered my students not at all. I was the one standing in the dark part. And I don't like that it cost them $20 a semester. Yeah. Next semester, for those students who did graduate, they'll still have their $5 clicker, but they're going to have to pay the $15 to register. If we were a school with a lot of money, now I'd probably say, okay, let's go buy a set and let's use it. But then again, we would have to be responsible for the clickers, bringing them to class, taking them home, taking them back so the next class can use them. I'm not sure I want to do that.
How did you collect the money for the $15 registration?
I didn't. They have to do that online.
They do it with a credit card or something?
Yeah, credit card, a check. You can also have them buy the online registration through the bookstore, though nobody did that. Anybody else? Before I turn it over to Mo to do the technical stuff. Yeah.
If you had the clickers and you distributed them each class, then you wouldn't have the benefit of being able to have their names pop up, right? Because
Sure you would. That's right. You would not be able to have their names pop up. Unless you assign them a number, which you could do. Some people, when they use that method, just tell them to take any one. And some say, in this class, you're number 37, you take number 37, you take number 38. And that would probably work a lot better to keep track, because then when 38's missing, you know what you had. Yeah.
Is it possible, this is more of a technical question, do you have to permanently install receivers, or can they go on a mobile card?
We only have mobile cards. Yeah.
We installed this about a year ago, and I was just wondering from a faculty perspective, the biggest problem we had when it was first installed was student complaint went from I never get any feedback to now I have to answer every question. And we had a huge contingent of students who refused to bring the clicker. They would forget it conveniently. They would lose it. Their battery was dead. They couldn't make it work from the seat, except of course for the one faculty member who said if you don't bring it, it's like you're not here. They all showed up.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is that what you did to kind of make sure everyone did what they were supposed to do?
Yeah. What I told them is that this was sort of a view of professionalism. They're about to become professionals. They're supposed to, as professionals, they need to be where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be. They're with what they're supposed to be there with. So, you're supposed to be in court. You're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. You're supposed to be prepared. And if you're going to have to be citing cases and statutes, you need them with you. All right, you're a student. You're supposed to be in my class on time at 8:30. You're supposed to have read the material. You're supposed to have your clicker with you in the story. And I had no complaints.
What do your colleagues think? We have the faculty members very interested in it, but a couple of people sort of said, well, that's not how you stimulate interaction. Did you get any negative?
I'm sure there's some of my colleagues who think, this was the stupidest idea to come up with, they haven't said that to my face. But I gave a very similar presentation to our faculty. A good number showed up, and there was lots of interest. Now, we have a faculty of about 35 of them do PowerPoints on a regular basis. I'm not sure if the rest of them even know how. So a lot of it is fear of technology. And I'm sure there are some people who think, oh, this is overemphasizing multiple choice questions, way too much, and that is like a scourge on digital education.
In a class of 60, roughly how long would it take for all 60?
Less than a minute. Oh, easily, yeah. Because at the beginning I was giving a minute for responses, and I never needed it. I was always handing it in. Yeah.
Has this been used outside the classroom at all, like a meeting, plans, just maybe faculty or county?
I can't imagine using it in a faculty meeting. I think people could respond anonymously. I have a feeling they'd go on interminably. But yeah, I know that our bar uses them for CLEs.
On that note, I just wanted to point out that the 32-pad system that you've got there isn't that expensive, and we bought one for our faculty, and they take it when they do presentations to other organizations, other schools, and they'll take it and use it to get some sort of response outside of their school.
Audiences like it. Now, if every single member of the faculty were using it in every class, every day, the novelty would wear off, and it probably wouldn't be as much fun. But right now, it is a very popular item among students. Now, I know Paul Karen started using this at Cincinnati, and he said, he won Teacher of the Year twice in a row after he started using it.
That's me.
My teaching evaluations, this is going to sound awful, have always been fine. They've always been quite high. And so I didn't worry about that as much. They haven't gone down after using this. I don't know if they went up at all. I didn't win Teacher of the Year after I started using it, but that's because I was ineligible this year because I won it last year.
But you know what? Starting July 5th, she's going to be our new Associate Dean for Information Technology and Curriculum Affairs.
Does that mean she's your boss?
Yeah, but he tells me what I need to know. And I'm going to turn it over to Mo.
She was my boss before that. This is really setting this up from a technical point of view is very easy. As I said, John Mayer wanted to get eInstruction to send, 600 clickers, and different system, different tools to set it up, and it was too late. It just came a few days ago. I came here and I got it from him, and it took me about 5 minutes to install the software. And this is a USB kind of thing. You put it in, and then it installs itself. There is really nothing to install other than run install. So that's easy. And what we do at Arizona is that our classrooms are old. And we don't have any fancy stuff like fixed projectors or anything. What we have is what we call cots. Okay? And on each cot we have a computer, projector, VCR, DVD, everything in that cart. And faculty, when they want to use any of these, we have a scheduling thing. They send a message to AV equipment, and then they get it to the class, and pick it up afterwards. Those who use CPS, what we do is that they prepare their lessons on their own computer in their office. And as Jean mentioned, this is really, there is nothing special about the class. It's just like any other PowerPoint lesson that you prepare. Okay? You don't have to do anything special about it. Okay? You do it, and then when you want to use it, if you want to use it, you use it. If you don't, you don't. You just click and go. Okay? So that, and you can see from this picture here, okay, this is a bigger picture. This is the cart. Okay, this is Professor Jack Chen here. Okay, and as you can see, the layout of our classrooms is not really very good, okay, because we have one side here and one side here, and the center where everything is where we put the screen. So there are, that part is not fused. Okay, we put everything on the card, okay, and we have the screen, and that's how the projection goes. What I'm going to show you now is, this is just a sample of how it is used by Professor Chen here. Okay.
Here you can see the question is still up on the board.
Right.
And,
the thing is,
Oh, it's
yeah. Yeah.
the audio is not very good from this here, but now you can see one of the challenges that we had is that they had some of them to stand up and do this and do that.
He's one of the ones who go away. There you go.
It's frustrating.
But they still like them.
I wonder, are the students' clickers numbered?
Yes.
Yes.
So I can see that everybody would be able to see that I'm 14.
Right. That's the idea of that clicker. Your student 14, is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll know to call on you now.
If the instructor's up there at the front of the room, who's controlling the cart with the presentation?
He's got a wireless mouse and a wireless keyboard.
Oh, the cards have wireless mouse and wireless keyboard, so that makes it a little bit easier to learn. Okay.
Yeah.
To keep track of the number of who's who, of which student is which, do you have a centralized database on a server? Do you install this on a server and then on a client?
No, we install for each class there is a database that has the names of the students, their clicker ID, or etc. Okay. Now whenever they want to use it, okay, we just copy that information on a different folder for each student for each class on that card. Okay. So the first time we copy everything, including the database, etc. The second time we only just copy the lesson because the database to that, and they put it in.
So they have their own separate database. It's not an integrated database with all the students. It's a
Right.
separate database
Each
for
class has its own database.
And it doesn't exist on a server anymore.
No, because we don't have, we have different cards that go to different classes.
But could you put it all on the server and draw from
You
it?
could. That's our new model once we get our classrooms renovated or our new building in place. But currently that's what we do. Okay? And this is really, the faculty don't do any of that stuff. Our AB staff, do the copying and all what their focus is, okay, is on preparing that lesson, and then all the other stuff is taken care of. as you could see, one of the problems or challenges that we have is because this, for it to click, it has to be, nothing to obstruct that. So students were
Dancing.
Were dancing. So one of the things that we thought about is to get a couple of tripods, okay, and put the receiver so that it is higher, okay, and that improved, some of that a little bit.
How about ceiling mounted? Could you do that?
You could do it right. That is, the best thing is actually, but because we don't have it fixed, okay, we wanted it, to take it from one class to another.
But you could stick them to the underside of the video.
Oh,
like
that's better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can the receivers do wireless then?
Oh yes, these are wireless, okay, or maybe not this one. What we have is that there are two kinds of receivers. One is serial and one is USB. And one of them has like a receiver, just like the receiver you see for the wireless mouse, for example, or wireless keyboard that sits in there with an antenna, a little antenna. And these can be sitting, somewhere else, okay, on the tripod, and that's what you can do.
You know what the receivers cost if you want to buy additional receivers so you can leave them in each classroom?
Somebody mentioned the prices changed.
For what? Others in software and receivers.
You got the receiver and the software.
So if you just want to buy more receivers,
Big giveaway.
Oh.
Yeah, the software is practical.
Maybe you can get a better deal.
Quantity.
But now I want to show you
While Mo's getting that up, I wrote my email address and Mo's email address up on the board. So if you have questions or want to talk about this further, it's in the book too? Oh, well, then never mind. Getting the video, and the audio.
Sure, I can talk to this.
This little film clip. If anybody has any questions while we're waiting for the film clip to come up. Yeah.
It just seems like a better model would be to have a system that works over the internet. Everybody's got wired classrooms or wireless classrooms. You wouldn't have to work. I'm just wondering if there's a product out there that works.
There's silicon chalk, and we looked at that a little bit. I'm not sure it's quite there yet.
We got a demo of that.
Is it not there?
Very good.
It's a terrible bandwidth clause. You can only have about 40 people on it. You have to isolate your access points. We have 9 access points. They overlap each other. I don't know. But you can do all of this. I mean, you can do the clicking. You can have an indicator whether they're going too fast, too slow, and it keeps track of everything that the instructor has on their laptop.
Yeah.
And it records it for the students at about 1 meg an hour or something.
Before lunch, in demo, Wes got something called Instafold attached to Twin. It's just come out. Looks like if everybody had a laptop, it would work the same.
Yeah. Of course, we don't require our students to have laptops.
This is the view after as you can see, we have the receivers, we put them on the tripods.
But it's better. And you have to realize we have very oddly configured classrooms. So. There's nothing in the middle. They're on 2 sides. So it's odd.
It's just the layout of the room, but it can be improved.
Right, because you can see there was no problem using this here. If you need to see, I have the. See, it's on the side here rather than blocking the way.
Now, you said that you have to, that it comes with the ability to show that you clicked in, which is good, as soon as you've done it. Can you block the answers? The display
Yes.
of the answers, okay.
Yes, you do not have to be able to see the answers.
So no, it wouldn't necessarily just be one color for all answers?
Well, no, you have A, B, C, and D, but you don't have to show the right answer.
No, no, I think the question is, it's, when we clicked that, it showed, everyone could watch and see number 29 click A or B. Because it was a different type.
Right,
No, it's the click that was a new one.
Right.
When you went, the first time you hit a letter, it would be the yellow. The second time you hit the same letter, or successive times, it would be green. So every time you went to a different one, said the guy who kept clicking 17 times.
People don't see what you've answered.
Oh, they don't? Okay.
No.
I came in late.
Yes?
Do you guys ever use the lesson part where you can go ahead and type your questions before class without using the PowerPoint part of it?
I found that very cumbersome to use. You have to fit it into an assigned space.
Right.
And the same for the answers.
The different
And that just drove me nuts.
the templates and all that stuff.
Yeah, the templates just drove me nuts. It may have been because I was very used to PowerPoint. And I'd not known how to PowerPoint, I might have been more willing to use their system, but I just was not.
Do any of the other instructors use that?
The other one who did it could not figure that out either, so. We said no. Yeah.
Is this a specific company, CPS, or?
It's eInstruction is the name of the company.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the system is called CPA, but different companies provide different system. We call them, it's the generic name. Okay, well,
Thank you.
thank you very much.